3 years ago, I embarked on a maiden voyage, an adventure to find and play Steam games that had met their fate and were no longer played by a single soul. At the time, it was a relatively unventured journey. Well, with the popularity of that voyage, many others set out on their own journeys of dead game discovery, even channels appearing dedicated to the craft. Well, men, do you know what I, Joeseppi, am going to do? Well, I'm just gonna do it again, aren't I? So back to SteamCharts.com I went, hundreds of games flying past as I hit the golden games, the 0 current players, and with that, I dived in. So just like last time, we have 5 categories: miscellaneous/sandbox, puzzle, action/shooter, platformer/adventure, and of course, horror. So I rounded up the 16 unplayed games and sorted them into their respective categories. So with the games organised, I set sail and set off on my voyage. I have moved house, not just moved in general. And as you can see, these walls are extremely bare. If only I had a vibrant, high quality metal poster to fill these walls with. Well, today's video sponsor, Displate, has just the thing. Choose from over 2 million different detailed Displate designs, and Displate even has official licensed art from such IPs as SpongeBob, Star Wars, Black Mirror, Overwatch, The Funny Rage Game, and way more. It's as simple as picking the Displate design you want, it arrives in 4 to 5 days, you wipe the wall, apply the protective leaf, stick on your magnet, and you're ready. Then you can snap any Displate onto the wall and easily swap them with others to enhance any room. No tools or skills needed. A little bit like being a YouTuber. Plus, you don't have to deal with pesky landlords moaning about holes in the wall. There's also the new Textra Displates with fancy gloss and matte prints that pop off the display to make your displays even more eye-catching. And lucky for you folks, if you use the link in the description, you can get an exclusive discount offer as seen on screen now. So first off, miscellaneous/sandbox, a category of games that are a bit strange or creative, out of the box, games that don't necessarily always fit into a certain space. And what game is more about trying to fit into a space than car parking real driving sim? So as I booted up what could have been the greatest simulator game of the year, I was blasted with maybe the loudest music I've ever heard from a video game. There is no music settings. And if that wasn't bad enough, it was the freakiest music known to man. So after manually lowering the game volume in Volume Mixer and wiping blood from my ears, I was presented with this dinky Fiat 500. So, using the $1,000 at my disposal, of course, I needed to Joeseppify the car in the Joeseppi blue paint. Well, as much as I could afford at least. The wing mirrors still remained red, and I had a poo brown underlighting. But hey, my name was on the number plate, so if I didn't already look like a knob, I did now. Loading into the city streets, I set off on my car parking journey, slowly turning around the corner, where I almost immediately hit a police car. To my luck, thankfully, he let me off. So as a free man, I turned another corner and hit another police car. Officer, listen, oh, never mind. Thankfully, none of the cars in the game had any drivers, so I think I may be safe. Who knows, maybe they're all high-tech AI self-driving cars. Well, either that or the dev couldn't be asked to add them to the game. In fact, this level of detail spans across the game. I mean, just look at this storefront. Well, whilst my car may have made an impact, the game certainly hadn't. This is shit. All I'd gotten so far was a reckless driving charge and a mechanics bill. I mean, I'd signed up for high-octane car parking gameplay. Well, like an answer to my call. I didn't find the car parking, but I did find this. A speed camera challenge, 140 kilometers per hour. I knew what I needed to do. I pushed my foot on the accelerator, revved the engine until it purred, and shot forward with absolutely zero force. I got 96 kilometers per hour, and I was forced to look at the broken English of lose jobs. Pathetic. But I wasn't going to stand for it. I wasn't going to take lose jobs as an answer. So I drove around the entire city, picking up speed as I went, as I hurtled toward the speed camera and hit 95. Yeah, it seemed my measly Fiat 500 just didn't have the horsepower, sadly. But it's all okay, because in the shame of my slow car, I realised there were multiple camera angles on the game. This first person one, an action cam, and this one that I can only describe as a helicopter view, similar to those live police chases that streamers watch sometimes.
Live chase! Oh my god, boys! This is like unboxing, like, something can happen, something cannot happen. Of course, unboxing the gold would be the police catches him, nobody gets injured, the car slows down, just stops at the roundabout, hands go up, hands up,
Roscoe.
boom. Done.
There was also 3 different driving modes. Simulator, which was what I'd been playing on for the entire run, I assume. Drift mode, that you turn on if you want your car to handle like a car in GTA 5 when you've lost all your tyres, just sliding all around the streets, and the drifting gave you cash that added to your total. And arcade mode, that was actually quite fun. Anyway, finally, I found the car parking. I drove up, brimming with excitement, and, well, I just parked, didn't I? It wasn't very difficult. I just pressed W. But I did get $2,000 for it. And may I just add, besides customizing your Fiat 500, there is no other cars in the game. Build your vehicle of your dreams in this parking game full of realistic details and challenging missions. How can I build the vehicle of my dreams when there is only one vehicle? Unless I was an 18-year-old girl, a Fiat 500 is not my dream car. Well, for a game that claims to be a car parking sim, there is not a lot of car parking. The driving and drifting can be pretty fun, and they were solidly made. And sure, the 3 driving modes and different cameras were cool, but there is literally only one car. Oh, and if your car runs out of fuel, you can't move. Yep, the game becomes completely unplayable. You have to walk. Oh wait, no you can't, because you don't exist. And neither does anybody else. And I am by no means a car expert, but with this game being called Real Driving Sim, something tells me that realistically, this car wouldn't be able to drive. Although, the game does allow me to get a glimpse into the world of car parking. Parking in real life isn't my strong suit. Parallel parking? Yep, that's taking me 20 minutes, to the point that I just use the auto park feature. A single car parking space in a busy car park? No chance. I'm looking for 2 spaces. Parking really is not my thing. I used to have driving lessons, and I'd sweat through my shirt so much, I'd just get home and throw them in the bin. I've been driving for 7 years now, and I have never been on the motorway. I literally just drive around my home city. Anyway, fun drifting, Fiat 500, lose jobs, no gas, no game. 4 out of 10. Now the definition of miscellaneous is a mixture and lack of order, or in other words, weird as shit. And this next game may be the single weirdest game I have ever played. Let me introduce you to Pull Stay. Straight in, even the menu screen alone was bizarre. An Asian man spinning in a washing machine with bubbles in front of a PNG of a city. Well, the first level of the game was no more sane. You played a metallic version of said Asian man on a lift, fighting these Amazon box men with all kinds of different attacks until eggs and diamonds flew out of them as some sort of reward. Yep, your guess is as good as mine. Well, after sitting on this chair and being shot up a lift shaft, we're placed into a house of sorts, where the human version of our character warns us that they are coming and we need to protect him in his room upstairs. So in short, you play as the robo version of this man here, and the premise of the game is that enemies approach the middle room of the house from the left and right entrances, and it's our job to protect this man in his anime-obsessed room upstairs as he sits and plays Osu or Genshin, probably. So, as the suited businessmen approached, I pulled out my best combat moves, and as the game progressed, you learn new moves to defend the house, as well as the introduction of traps. The first trap I was introduced to was this anime waifu pillow. Strange. I wasn't entirely sure how a body pillow classified as a trap.
This is the best girl. I love Rem. She's now my wife.
But I hesitantly placed it down on the bed and waited for my prey. I led the intruders through into the bedroom, and right before my eyes, the men would be drawn to the body pillow, spoon it on the bed, then get engulfed by it. What was I playing? But I couldn't stop. Wave after waves of enemies coming in droves as I fought back with all my might, pile driving men into the ground, defending my sun-deprived pal. The more I played the game, it just got progressively weirder. This boxing glove trap that flung you into first person and allowed you to decimate anybody in your path. And arguably, the strangest part of the game were the stages between the waves, where you walk down what appeared to be a school corridor whilst trying to dodge old Japanese men dressed as schoolgirls. Well, as the waves increased, I eventually succumbed to the sheer number of invaders, and the man's room was compromised, in which the single weirdest animation played. Overall, as weird as the game was, I actually found myself enjoying it. Oh! Combo? It was certainly well made, the graphics were nice, I sort of got lost in the whole experience. Sure, the combat was nothing special and maybe it could have even been improved, but the intensity of keeping the bedroom safe was actually pretty entertaining at points. I find myself wanting to play this game again. There was even the ability to add extra rooms to extend the house to save yourself a little bit of time. Pull Stay was like Balloon's tower defense if the balloons were house invaders and the monkey was a robotic version of an anime-obsessed terminally online Asian man. Very strange, Japanese, body pillow, like Balloon's tower defense but not really. Good fun. 7 out of 10. Blocky Snake. Now I'm going to break it to you guys. You don't have to be a genius to work out what this game consists of. It's pretty much that little snake game that you used to play on your old Nokia. Oh, sorry. I forgot you guys maybe aren't that old. It's a bit like Slither.io or... Listen, just type Snake into Roblox and I'm sure you'll find it. So yeah, it's a 3D version of the classic Snake game in 3D, in 3 dimensions, in 3D. You go around collecting these little cube-shaped apples and pears as your snake gets longer with each one collected. Alright guys, let's go. Let's see how long my snake can get. Wait, the game worked off a level system. Now you would think that this would be quite easy. And sure, I made it through the first level where it was just my snake on the map, but let's just say, as the levels moved on and more snakes appeared, I may have slightly struggled. Oh no. Oh. Certainly look... Oh. Look at that. Oh, okay. How the f*** have I just died there? Are you kidding me? Oh, you knob! And don't even get me started on the hard mode. What's hard mode like? Let's see how hard it is. Well, you know what? As far as a 3D snake game goes, it was quite nice. It was well made. Does what it says on the tin. Hello! Nice bright colours. It got the job done. Only thing I would say is the camera moving as you did got a little bit jarring and there was no way to fix it. And yeah, it's just 3D Snake. Sure, it's basic, but there was plenty of levels to unlock. It'd burn 20, 40 minutes here and there, and it certainly would work great as one of those switch your brain off kind of games whilst you're in a Discord call with friends or listening to a podcast. I mean, I don't see it dethroning Balatro anytime soon, but you never know. Basic Snake 3D, motion sickness camera movements, and no setting to change it. Despite being easy, I got quite into it. Hard mode, good AFK chill game. 6 out of 10. Well, we go from a snake, one animal, to another animal in this next game. Cats, which are an animal, and are vastly popular across the internet. Did you know that funny cat videos actually statistically take up 80% of all web space? You can find a cat doing anything online, but have you ever heard of Cat's War? Taking the cake for the most basic menu so far, no settings menu. Always a great sign. Well, you play as this cat that is Ginger. And after digesting the huge amount of motion blur that couldn't be changed, I hopped into this cardboard box on wheels, car thing, and started to patrol the streets. Now sure, whilst this was a unique experience, I wasn't entirely sure what the Cat's War was all about. I mean, it seemed like quite a nice neighbourhood to me. There was other cats of various colours walking around the streets, but they just minded their own business, starting no real problem. Well, all of my questions were answered when I rolled up to the 24/7 convenience gas station. I hopped out, I was almost there, and instantly, death. As the happiest music you have ever heard played. Okay, I see now. I see what this war being waged is. These ducks think it's okay to just assault me in broad daylight. I get that I'm Ginger, but that's no excuse. Well, this run, I was going back with a vengeance. I spawned in, drove down the block, and ran through these collectible magazines on the ground. I mean, if I was going to take on the army of ducks, I would need ammunition. So with magazines collected, I spun around and very quickly realised I had made a massive mistake. Suddenly, I was training a horde of identical ducks, and in a panic, I'd scrolled up and equipped a baseball bat. But I'd have no chance against this many ducks, and as the happy music kicked in, I made a run for it, thankfully losing the horde. And right there, in my eye line, was the dreaded gas station. And you bet I was going back for revenge. So with baseball bat in hand, I approached a lone duck standing outside, and I started my attack, swinging over and over, and it was going great. Until more of the duck thugs approached, I got ganged up on, tried to run, got stuck on a pole, and death. The happy music taunting me once more. Now I know what you're asking. If I just picked up magazines off the ground, why was I using a baseball bat? Well, that is a valid question. In short, I had no idea how to find or use a gun. So on my next run, I looked everywhere. I scoured the streets, houses, backyards, trying to find a gun of some sort. And I may have mowed down a few ducks in the process. But the more and more I looked, I drew a blank. No guns anywhere. And in a fit of rage against the ducks, I sort of spammed every button on my keyboard and mouse, and then a gun just appeared in my hand. Yep, while earlier I'd scrolled up to get a baseball bat, all I had to do was scroll up once more, and boom, I had a submachine gun. And let me tell you, boy, did this turn the tables. In minutes, I was mowing down every duck in sight, bullets flying everywhere. I was the one winning the war now, baby. Now, the actual main aim of the game was to collect these 10 flowers. So in between the bloodshed, I started to gather them, and I collected literally every single flower I could find, and I still didn't hit 10. So I guess we'll never know what that actually does. And with this, I turned my sights back on the gas station, where I killed every... I returned to the gas station, where I killed... I returned to the gas station where I killed every duck I could see until I ran out of ammo and died. Overall, whilst not a war of epic proportions, or even a high action one, the game still kept me entertained. What a game. What a game. Being able to play as a cat, riding in a cardboard box with wheels and wielding a baseball bat and a submachine gun was certainly a new experience. And I guess the game did what it set out to achieve because it didn't take long for me to resent every duck that I saw. And I love ducks. They're my favourite animal. I mean, just look how cute they are. Well, when they aren't beating you to a pulp outside a gas station. The game had basically zero sound design with no ambient audio or footsteps, the guns needed some work, and the flowers were so hard to find I had no clue what they led to. But I guess it didn't break. I mean, I assume it ran as intended. I did get stuck on a few things, and the hand-to-hand combat was basically non-existent and resulted in my face being illuminated red by the death screen, accompanied by that music. Oh, and the cardboard box car did seem to have a mind of its own. Sure, the game was a little bit repetitive after a while, but running over a group of ducks as a cat in a cardboard box car as the happiest royalty-free music you've ever heard plays in the background is truly an experience. Oh! Play as a cat, kill ducks, couldn't find flowers, weirdly enjoyable, death, 5 out of 10. Well, as a recovering veteran from the Great Cat War of 2025, I needed a rest. I needed to relax, sit back and recover. And what is better than a puzzle? So introducing the first puzzle game on the list, Hamster on Rails. An intriguing title to say the least. The menu screen was packed to the brim with excitement, filled with this colony of cute little hamsters living out of tree houses, I guess. Well, upon clicking departure, the camera pans in to what appears to be the king hamster. He explains that we are his greatest explorer, and we need to search for a new source of ore for the king. You then speak to this hamster in a hard hat, and I will admit this bit went on for a bit, so I may have skipped it. And with that, we hop into a minecart and head through a portal. So, the way the game worked was you were presented with these isometric levels. You start at one end, and the goal is to make it to the exit, with the option of collecting various items. Very simple. And of course, the way you make it to said exit is by placing these different rail pieces along the ground to guide your hamster on rails. Haha, well, like most puzzle games, the first level started off pretty easy, pretty self-explanatory. I snapped the rails down, clicked play, and breezed through. Same with the second level. And of course, the game very quickly got harder as the levels advanced. Sure, it doesn't help that I'm, how do you say, a moron? Wait, I've done it wrong. Sometimes a simple premise is the greatest way to slowly make a game trickier as it progresses. Thankfully, with the help of chat, I slowly progressed through each of the levels. Things were going great. My hamster was being my hamster was travelling along my rails. And I was even collecting items to customise my little guy. Look at him. Well, as I revelled in my, and chat's, intelligence, it didn't last long, as I hit this level. Now, on the surface, it doesn't look too difficult. Well, I thought the same. Start of the level, simple. Turn here, pick up the ore outside the mine, follow the cliff line along, pick up this key. Not too tricky. Well, it was this part of the level where it all started to go wrong. Sure, you might think you just put a rail down and the hamster just goes over it. Well, when I clicked play, the hamster came to an abrupt halt, and after a few more attempts and a bit of confusion, if you can tell, this block of land is ever so slightly off compared to this block of land, meaning you couldn't travel over it. Let's just say, this tiny part of the level design threw my brain into a frenzy. Why doesn't that work? Chat, what have I done wrong? I tried everything, rearranging the rails, clicking boosts at the right time, going up this hill and seeing if I could go through the log. Spoiler alert, I couldn't. I had no idea. Chat also had no idea, so I was screwed. Okay, sure, I could just go up this hill and finish the level, but I needed that boomerang. There it sat, taunting me, the same way Australia does on a map. Like, yes, it exists, but I'm not going to spend 24 hours on a plane to visit a place with spiders and snakes bigger than my head. Anyway, after many attempts, I was officially stumped. I sadly closed the game and had to move on, never knowing the solution to this very level. Or at least that's what I thought until one of my chatters linked a tutorial to the level where the person in the video rotated the camera. You can move the fucking game camera? Yep, that's right. The entire time I could have rotated the level by pressing right click. Sometimes my level of stupidity actually impresses me. I guess that's what I get for skipping the tutorial text that the hamster in the hard hat was trying to tell me. This is a life lesson, guys. If a hamster in a hard hat starts speaking to you, always listen. So in summary, the game was solidly made. The way to place down, rotate and remove rails took a tiny bit of learning, but it was pretty intuitive after a bit. The levels offered enough of a challenge that it felt rewarding placing the rails down, and then you got the reward of watching your little guy shoot around them in his car, collecting additional items. And who doesn't love a good bit of customization? See, this game lets me make the hamster of my dreams. And yes, we learnt two things. The levels could be rotated, and I may indeed be mentally rotated. Cute hamster in a car, customization, read the tutorials. 7 out of 10. Next up on the list, a game called Inside the Gear. Well, whilst Hamster on Rails had a lively, fleshed out menu screen with plenty going on, Inside the Gear did not. It seemed that simple menu screens were quite the trend on this list, and we got to listen to the soothing menu sounds of So in short, Inside the Gear was a physics-based puzzle game. Your goal was to get this stone wheel donut thing onto this platform, and all you had at your disposal is this movable plank and this stone cube. So you move the pieces where you'd like them, then scroll up to start the physics-based simulation. Not an awful concept on paper, but I may add, this circular stone donut seemed to have the mass of the sun. I mean, it was so heavy. And let me just add, if you hadn't worked out already from Hamster on Rails, I was far from an engineer. Let's just say the first level took me a few attempts, a bit of trial and error, and after I completely worked out the solution all by myself with absolutely no external help at all, I made it past the first level. Oh my god, you're a genius! You are a genius! Oh my god, you're a genius! You are a fucking genius! The second level introduced one additional platform that would freeze in place, and I guess this one small addition to the level was too much for me, because there was zero chance I was completing this level. Tens of attempts. I thought maybe it was a catapult sort of system, over and over, trying different things, nothing, and in a fit of rage, I auto-filled the game. Listen, okay, I implore you to go and get this game and give it a try. You try it, okay, and feel free to join my Discord and show off how good you are. Well, listen, I was shit. I was bad at the game. Then the same chatter that gave me the solution to the first level said, you can't just give the game a bad review because you were bad at it. Yeah? Well, watch me, mate. Sure, the physics of the game was super realistic and the concept was cool, but I couldn't make it past 2 levels. And the controls were quite peculiar, with no settings to change them. I mean, you could have at least added a button to start the simulation rather than scrolling the mouse wheel. Besides that, the game didn't have much else to it. But yeah, at least it was cheap. Go and give it a go. Physics, frustrating controls, no options. Yes, I am bad at it. 3 out of 10. Now, whilst the 2 previous puzzle games offered their own unique experiences, I know what you're thinking. In the first Steam game video, all those years back, in the puzzle category, we had games like Milo and the Magpies, a beautifully hand-painted point-and-click puzzle game with great puzzles. And after the video's release, people flooded to the game, gave it all the love it deserved, and the devs were so grateful, they sent me a gift box, invited me to their studio, and the game's artist, Johan Scherf, sent me this water painting of my channel avatar, which is now in the Christmas edition of the game. Well, it may not be Milo and the Magpies, but I found a game called Gnomedom. Nomdom. The game opens with Grandpa Gnome celebrating his 100th birthday, but sadly, none of his 12 gnome relatives have turned up to his birthday party, so it's our job to find them. After wiping the tears from your eyes, you're presented with this overhead view of a woodland stream with various different clickable locations. So the main bulk of the gameplay is you'd be thrown into these said different woodland locations, and you had to solve numerous point-and-click puzzles to free each trapped gnome so they can make it to Grandpa's party. Overall, the game was super engaging, with very intelligently designed puzzles that were all woven into the environment and the nature theme of the game really well. Matching puzzles, memory puzzles, rotation puzzles, the game had a little bit of everything. And whilst this was great, it also meant that some stages were far harder than others. I mean, this memory puzzle here, I breezed through it pretty easily. Same with the matching puzzle. And there were some puzzles that were a little more tricky and took me a little bit more time. But then, there were stages where I had absolutely zero clue. This level, for example, 4 carrots that you could click on 4 times each to raise them further out of the ground in increments, along with this spinning dial. The top level spun separately. Sure, I knew it most likely had something to do with lining the pattern up, but no matter what I tried, I had no success, and I was unsure of what role the carrots played. And don't even get me started on this thing. I thought I knew how these things worked. Oh, one of these, okay. I'm so good at these. I'm actually so good at these. I thought it would take me a couple of minutes at best. Well, I thought wrong. Very wrong, in fact. I think half of my playtime on the game was just me trying to solve this very puzzle. I'm so good at these. And of course I know there's some sort of technique to it, but I didn't want to spoil the fun by Googling the answer. I'm going to smash this PC to bits. There are also times where the first puzzle in the stage would be pretty easy, then the second part I couldn't seem to solve. This matching puzzle, I got through it pretty fast. Then, you're presented with this sliding puzzle. Sure, I knew I had to slide the parts around, but I didn't know exactly what the game wanted me to do. I couldn't slide the big pieces out. I thought maybe it was something to do with matching the bugs, but that didn't seem to make much sense either. Now, whilst the odd stage with easier puzzles did, other stages provided no clues or hints to maybe just slightly poke you in the right direction. And while some people like this hardcore nature of puzzle games, it was a shame that I couldn't save some of the gnomes because of certain puzzles, and nothing is more demoralising than giving in and searching a walkthrough. But overall, Nomdom was a great game. A soft brush art style and the warm, relaxing music made for an overall really cozy experience. The puzzle designs were well thought through, and managing to theme them all around nature made the game feel super put together. Sure, some of the puzzles were a little too difficult for my ape brain, and maybe certain levels didn't have clear enough guidance, but the puzzles I did complete were just challenging enough that they felt really fulfilling to get through. Plus, you get to see the cute little gnomes cheer and go on his merry way when you beat the stage. You really had to piece information together to work certain stages out, like this level that I'd gotten through the majority of, and all I had left was this bottle cap that shook when you pressed the top part of it and the bottom part of it. And after a bit of searching, I noticed these line markings on the paper inside the bottle, and after hesitantly following the pattern of clicks, the cap fell off. Finding stuff like this, applying it, and then it working is always great fun. Oh my god! Oh, game of the year. Game of the year. There was numerous photographs to collect throughout the levels too, which I can only assume were the gnomes' baby photos. It was nothing crazy, but it was a nice added touch. Also, getting stuck on one level and having the ability to pull out to the aerial view, take a break, and switch to another level was really nice, and it kept the game from feeling stale. Nobody likes when you play a puzzle game and you get stuck and the whole game is just put on hold until you work it out.
I can't do it. It's like my brain cannot do it.
I suggest you give this game a try if it seems like your kind of thing, and I'm sure plenty of you out there will work out all of the levels, unlike me. The little story that prefaced the game, the nature theme that ran throughout, and the fun, well-designed puzzles weaved in made for a fun little puzzle game that'll burn an hour or two. Nice theming and art, well-designed puzzles, option to jump between stages, maybe a bit of guidance on harder levels. Gnomes. 8 out of 10. Ah, well, don't we just all feel refreshed and relaxed after this trip down puzzle lane, eh? Well, now we're all rejuvenated and re-energized. What better way to expel that energy on the category of action/shooter? Now, if Nomdom was the calm, this game is certainly the storm. Bear no grudge. The menu screen, a bear in a puffer coat graffitiing a cow. Oh, he's a bear. Bear no grudge. Get it, guys?
Okay,
Well, if the gameplay is as good as that joke, we are in for a treat with this one. Now, the game quickly showed why it deserved to be in the action category, with it opening straight into a race, where you control this female bear racing the bear that we saw in the menu screen. So off we set, speeding down the track. It took me a few seconds to get a hang of the controls, and if I do say so myself, I was absolutely smoking him. Man, I was so smug with myself. I was darting around the track, diverting past a fallen tree, flying up over a ramp, where I flew into a vat of toxic waste and died. You just f***ing died! At the forest delivery plant, as the camera pans up, revealing a yellow fog-soaked forest, and the title screen rolls. Man, what a way to get you engaged. Mr. Beast would be proud. Okay, she didn't die. She was just badly injured. Holy shit. Well, it turns out that she, as I've been calling her, is actually the male bear's girlfriend, I assume. What they're doing to the planet, what they've done to me. Promise me you won't let them get away with this. A simple mission where the said grudge begins. And with this, we're thrown into the game. We're outside the Forest Delivery HQ, and I can't even start to imagine what this is based off. Seems we may have found another small trend in this list. Maybe indie game developers just hate Jeff Bezos. Well, with our controls present on these two boards, equipped with a rifle, I started firing at the first enemy. Oh, wait, he's my friend.
Skylar White, yo. My husband is Walter White, yo.
He explains that the first step is to roll under the barriers, and after following his command and gunning down some actual bad guys this time, I made my way into the the Forest Delivery HQ. So the game consists of you storming the evil corporation building, frantically gunning down enemies as you move between the office rooms, or watch your girlfriend instructs you on what to do with some Academy Award-winning voice acting.
Watch out, guards are patrolling. You should be able to sneak past them.
After rolling your way into the server room and decimating each server to send the company offline, we make it into the manager's office, approach the PC, where a handheld video of who I can only assume is the dev of the game speaks directly to us.
Listen here, you bear. You are really beginning to inconvenience me. I'm gonna give you two options. One, you can turn around and walk out of here. Everything will be forgotten. Or two, you can proceed, go through that door, and just see what's waiting for you. It'll be game over.
Very spooky. Then suddenly, we see a bomb is about to explode. I ran down the corridor and jumped out of the window in slow motion. There was no explosion, but so, what happens next, I hear you ask? Well, we've presented with a skate park. Yep, you just skate around, collecting letters to try and spell the word shred. But you could just get the last letter and complete the whole word. Honestly, this skating part was maybe the most fun I'd had on the game so far. It was weirdly quite well made, amongst all the other stuff that wasn't. What you will soon learn about this game, if you haven't already, is it's all over the place. And with that, as I finish my shred session, I escaped Optimus Prime in the most seamless gameplay experience known to man. Wait. Oh? Okay. What? Well, I eventually made it through the desired path, rode down a huge hill, and made it to the Forest Delivery shipping area. Well, after meeting with my friend and not filling him with bullets this time, I jumped the fence, and it seemed that they were running some sort of military operation. So as I snuck past, well, I say snuck, I could overhear the military plans to hunt me down.
Our job is to take this bear down. We're gonna fill it full of holes.
Now, the military must not only be deaf and blind, but also invincible, because filling them with bullets did absolutely nothing. I could have ended this right here, but no. Well, after making it past a few more soldiers that were actually killable, I escaped on a hovercraft, where you played this tug-of-war type minigame, avoiding the bombs, but not letting your aircraft overheat to the point that the level fails, which took some trial and error. Next, we're on a farm, of all places. Listen, you could probably guess the next location. Well, I shot a llama, and I was instantly filled with guilt. Listen, okay, given the game's track record, I didn't think that this would have actually done anything. I shot down some killer drones, then to open a wooden gate, I was tasked with completing this race car minigame, where the aim was to beat this set time. Now I locked in, and remembered back to the random Steam key video with the game Deadly Racing Duel. I soon realised you could literally drive back and forth across the finish line and rack up laps. And like magic, I set off from the start line, then drove backwards back over the line and racked up laps, and boom. I mean, of course that works. Why wouldn't it? Wait, I want to test something. In these badly made games, normally you can just... Yeah, thought that would work. How did I know? The gate swung open and I ran through and just casually took down an attack helicopter. As you do. Then, the game turned into a 2D platformer. What the literal shit is going on? Well, much akin to Cuphead, but buggy and shit, I took down the boss, rode along this wooden ski lift of sorts, killing more guards, then, maybe the most frustrated I have been in this entire video. This damn tank. Seems simple enough, right? You just run ahead of it and dodge the rockets. Well, trust me, nothing in this game was simple. In the game's defense, there was a few times where my death was warranted, but can somebody please tell me what I have done wrong here? Or here? I mean, I died over and over, and I was forced to look at this awful death text. I mean, is that even an E? Wait, here, let me make a suggestion. Ah, much better. Well, finally, I had seemingly made it the furthest I'd been. The end of the road was in my sight, until I got shot by a buggy rocket and collapsed, and I alt F4'd the game. There was no question that Bear No Grudge was definitely one of the most all-over-the-place games I'd seen in my time, but it certainly delivered on its action. Sadly, besides its great skating mechanics, the game was more funny than fun, and that was only due to its numerous bugs littered throughout. Although, these numerous bugs did actually make the game very easy to exploit, and as we've seen, a buggy game with exploits always makes for great speedrun potential, so there may be something going for it there. The motivation of the bear revealed to us at the start of the game was pure cinema, along with the slow-mo window jump and the odd glitchy cutscene. I couldn't say the same for the voice acting, but we can't have everything, eh? Well, I must say, as far as games about a bear storming a rip-off Amazon warehouse, riding a skateboard, taking down a helicopter, and jankily escaping a tank, all whilst trying to push a climate change message, Bear No Grudge is definitely at the top of that list. Play as a bear, cinema but shit voice acting, Amazon ripoff, all over the place but fun skating, buggy but good for speedrunning. 5 out of 10. So wasting no time, next up in the list of action-packed titles, a game named 2030. Now just bear in mind guys, this is in 5 years. This game is going to be an accurate representation of what life will be like in 5 years' time. I mean, we're closer to 2050 now than we are 2000. I mean, we are in the year now that Black Ops 2 was set in.
The Nuketown 2025 bonus map.
And I don't see people dolphin diving outside when I leave the house. Anyway, opening the game, oh my lord! This one might take the cake for the most terrifying menu screen yet. And we haven't even made it to the horror category. We'll get into the game. Our first mission is we have to take down Amazon. I'm just kidding. I had to make a server, and I was presented with 8 different playable characters. Oh look, it's the guy from Search for Fran. Well, I ultimately decided to go with the astronaut. So, you spawn in this circle area, surrounded by scrap cars and a water tower. Wow, this is the future. I ran around a little bit in the small area I had, and each time I shot, not only did the game lag a little bit, but it would also move your mouse up, which wasn't ideal. Well, I was finally ready. With a grenade launcher in hand, I turned around, 2 zombies appeared, I fired the grenade and died within a second. Nice! 0 kills, 1 down, 1 death, and somehow that was 520 points. Okay. Well, I restarted the level and gave it another go. And whilst I was certainly doing better this run, switching between my assault rifle that had no sound design to it and my trusty grenade launcher that looks like a tac shotgun from Fortnite, as I took down groups of zombies and zombie dogs, I think my training in Cat's War was helping me a lot. Picking up the occasional max ammo crate, I mean the game got very boring very quickly. Then a big group of zombies spawned behind me, pinned me into a corner, and I blew up and died. Now, there is a glaring point about the inspiration behind this game. I mean, it is just COD Zombies, isn't it? Let's be real, you run around and kill zombies and collect max ammo, like COD Zombies. Honestly, this might be the next edition in the Call of Duty Zombies franchise. Either that, or this is actually what life is going to be like in 2030. Overall, the limited space of the game made it feel very basic. There was nowhere to explore and nothing to really do besides mindlessly kill shitty assets of zombies and the odd dog until you inevitably got glitched into a corner and died to your own weapons. Oh yeah, and you can just glitch on top of a car and kill the zombies infinitely. Basic, zombies. This is 2030 zombies. Not COD though, zombies. 2 out of 10. Now, we may have just got a glimpse of what life will be like in 2030, but what about exactly 47 years later in 2077? Now, if I asked all of you to think of the word beginning with C that comes before this year, we can all sit here and collectively say, Cuba 2077. So the game opens up with footage of the rising tensions within Cuba. Or at least that's what I assume, because there is something about Cuba 2077 that I haven't been telling you guys. The entire game is in Spanish. There was 0 options to change that or add any other foreign subtitles. Well, pushing that aside, getting into the gameplay, the thing that hit me first off was the graphics were surprisingly good. You play as this fellow with 2 robotic arms and a trench coat with a dragon on the back of it. And my limited GCSE Spanish tells us that we have to speak to our mum. But suddenly, she's not in the best condition. I mean, her head was clipping through the bed. She speaks to me in Spanish that I took in absolutely 0 of. Listen, love, I am English. No hablo hablo español. And with that, I was off on my merry way. We're teleported to this futuristic, cyberpunk sort of neon street where we encounter a guard that's protecting a doorway. After charming him with all of the Spanish that I learnt from 3 seasons of Narcos, he lets me into the building. A pile of money is seen on the table, and a man in a neon coat starts frantically shouting at me. Wait, is that Discord on his monitor? Well, ladies and gents, we know that e-kittens still exist in 2077. Heading back out onto the street, past this floating car, I made my way out into this plaza area, futuristic neon signs still covering all of the walls. Honestly, as small as the areas were, the design of the place wasn't too awful. I mean, if you ignore the fact that it's the future and they still have metal shutters and 2D brick walls, I got speaking to this robot vendor thing and had the option to buy absolutely nothing and no missions. I beat the shit out of this road bloke at the bus stop and then made my way down this second alleyway towards this sort of large government looking building.
Welcome to City 17.
It seemed the entrance was locked, but next to the doorway was finally something I could read. The instructions were in English. I mean, it was zero help, but it was a nice touch, reminding me of home. Now, I'd gathered that the entrance was locked, and I had to find another way into the building. I knew that much at least. After about 15 minutes of searching, that wasn't made any easier by the fact that my character was locked in some sort of combat stance, which meant he moved at the speed of Joe Biden, I eventually found a gap in the fence that allowed me to go around the side entrance of the building. It was here I encountered my first enemy, and within seconds we were flung into hardcore combat. Kicking, punching, rolling, it was going down. I was getting some good hits in, until he swiftly did a spin punch and knocked me out cold. Well, after spawning back instantly in front of him, I decided my best technique to avoid the janky combat was to just run. So I ran through the building, past as many guards as possible, and behind this reception area to find some sort of document or key or something. And I found absolutely nothing. I got stuck behind an office chair, one of the guards ran up to me, frantically started punching me in the head about 5 times, and knocked me out again. This was becoming very frustrating very quickly.
Oh my god, this is so shit.
Now, this exact process repeated about 2 more times, until I realised it was a lost cause, and there was nothing to collect, and I couldn't understand any of the game, or any of these options. Okay, I can't understand any of the settings, so I decided to call it quits. Now, I will hold my hands up and say that if I was Spanish, or could understand Spanish,
in Spanish, we say,
"Se habla inglés,"
or read Spanish, I might have had a little bit of a better experience with the game. I don't know what any of this says. But even then, the game was still a mess, and the combat was awful, and knowing Spanish wouldn't fix that. What? I did realise through the middle of one of the runs that there was a lock-on feature that just showed you the enemy's HP, but didn't make the combat any easier. Overall, I had no idea what was happening, no idea what I had to do, none of the features seemingly worked, and the game was vaguely based in the future. But honestly, it was probably more stable than Cyberpunk was on release. Couldn't understand a word, nice graphics, awful combat, nothing happened. 2 out of 10. Now I'm sure you'd probably be thinking, can the action category get any worse? Well, I'll let you be the judge with this next game, First Customer. Well, the lobby area of the game was a total mess of stone and text, with the controls on the screen. So deciding to keep it simple, I walked towards normal mode, where my attention was captured by this digital poster for Paradise. Is this like Ready Player One or Sword Art Online? Okay, maybe not that one. But I did want to be in Paradise. Who doesn't? So stepping through the portal, you're dropped into this grassland with a barely textured rifle. This car that was invincible and undrivable, and this woman also equipped with a rifle, who was also invincible and followed you everywhere.
What are you doing?
Already, we were off to an intriguing start. Setting off into the grasslands of Paradise, the general premise of the game was to collect these scrolls on the compass at the top of the screen. They were often surrounded by various different enemies that you had to eliminate, if your weapons actually allowed you to, that is. Now, this is a good point to mention. There was a variety of weapons and enemies in the game, but half of said weapons were awfully designed and frankly didn't work. I mean, just look at my attempt to kill this enemy with a knife.
Okay,
Whatever stab-proof vest this guy has on needs to be given to everybody in London. The game world was very strange, with a lot of it being almost medieval themed, and of course the scrolls fit into that theme too. Now I'm sure you're probably wondering what happens when you collect these said scrolls. Well, you got an achievement. That was it. In fact, achievements were a pretty big thing in this game. Who am I kidding? It was an achievement farming game, okay? Every single enemy you killed, you got an achievement for it. In fact, one of the only things that actually worked in the game was the achievement system, if you can call it a system. Also, I have no idea what the point of this woman was, because she followed me around with a rifle, and she never seemed to shoot it once. Well, as I very quickly established that normal mode and paradise was shit, I thought I'd give this extra level a go, named Weaponless Hospital Level. Well, let me just tell you, it certainly lived up to its name. You ran around a gloomy hospital with no weapons, believe it or not, but there were guards that shot you with weapons, and you had no way of defending yourself, so you just died. That was the stage. In summary, First Customer was a total mess, and was basically just an achievement farming game wrapped up in some janky programming, with a few weapons thrown in. Unless you're in the hospital level, of course. How do you make games like this? How do you make games like this? How do you not play your own game and think, wow, this is shit? Awful clunky gameplay, achievement farm, a total mess, not paradise. 2 out of 10. Well, after the mess that was the action category, I was hoping that we could put it all behind us and move forward. Find games that had some sort of substance, games that were on a different level. And what kind of games feature different levels? The platformer/adventure category. Now, I mentioned this in the last Steam Games video about the random Steam key packs, but a lot of these games with 0 players are often platformers. I mean, it makes sense, honestly. Platformers are some of the easiest sort of games to make, really. A few assets here and there, and a tiny bit of code, and you've got yourself a game. A low bar of entry, I guess you could say. So I'd usually try and steer clear of these sort of simple 2D platformers, but one game on the list caught my attention. Let me introduce you to Carlos the Taco.
Dorito shell taco from Taco Bell.
Well, straight into the game, we already had a lore. It seems that Carlos the Taco was getting married to his taco wife, but then the skeleton men on their skeleton horses seemed to storm his wedding day, then clunk him over the head and steal his wife, I guess. Carlos has a vengeance. This is ringing a bell. So as the level booted, the first thing that hit me was the music. I mean, Carlos the Taco had absolutely no right for its music to go this hard. Holy shit! Best music so far? So after my impromptu dance session, as far as the gameplay, it's what you'd come to expect, really. A simple, vibrant 2D platformer. You run around as Carlos the Taco in his big hat, collecting these maracas, jumping off springboards, and killing enemies with bottles of ketchup and mustard. About 2 minutes into the game, you know what you've signed up to. It was simple and fun, not too hard, but the odd challenge here and there thrown in. It was very mini-clip core. You know, the sort of game you'd play at the back of the classroom in year 9 and hope you didn't get seen by the teacher. Or the Flash game you'd smuggle in on a memory stick and deal out to every other student. Rest in peace, Flash. Gone, but not forgotten. But trust me, Carlos the Taco was full of surprises. There were these different coloured sauce bottles dotted around the map, and each one affected Carlos in a different way. A little bit like the items in Mario. This one turned your ketchup into a machine gun, this one gave Carlos a jetpack, and this one turned Carlos into a big chicken. Very strange, but very fun to encounter, I will admit. Overall, Carlos the Taco plays pretty much how you would expect it to. A simple, fun, vibrant platform game. It was nostalgic, taking me back to my childhood days where I would sit and soak up any Flash game that I could play. The levels did get a little bit repetitive after a while, but the new surprises and additions on each level did help balance things out and keep things quite fresh. The enemies were a bit janky and would get a lot of hits on you, and Carlos's movement wasn't the swiftest. Although the game's overall Mexican theme was really tied together well. Every single item, enemy, piece of artwork, and of course the music all fit that Mexican desert theme, which goes a long way. Sure, it was nothing crazy, but these kind of games are usually made by 1 or 2 people, and I'm sure platformers are probably where a lot of developers start, or at least practice. They feel very homegrown, and you always know what you're getting into. Now, I didn't make it to the end, but hopefully Carlos gets his wife back. Great music, consistent theme, is a platformer, cool special abilities, bit repetitive. 6 out of 10. Now, we've seen 2D platforms, but what about platforms in a 3-dimensional space? And what if you could traverse them using a cannon? And the title of the game was Cannon Jump. Well, then you would love Cannon Jump. Seemingly washing ashore on this dinky rowboat, with cannon in hand, it's your job to fire cannonballs under your feet to boost yourself up and make your way over gaps to reach higher ledges. Very simple premise on paper. It's basically rocket jumping from TF2, if you were a pirate. And the game was far less popular. So as I got a grasp of the controls, I made my way through the stage. The start was very forgiving. I mean, if you fell into the water here, you could just kind of shoot yourself out of it. I mean, I looked at these ramps and thought no chance. But luckily, I could just fall in the water and make my way over that way. It wasn't too difficult. But trust me, as I tilted my camera up to see how high the game wanted me to go, I realised what I downloaded. This was a certified rage game. Eventually, I made my way up the platforms that started to become suspended in midair, so there was a little bit more to lose if you fell. And I'm sure it's no surprise when I say, I was awful. Oh my god, oh my god. No! Oh my god. No! Okay. Oh. I mean, I was constantly falling off. I couldn't get the hang of how to make it past the gaps. Maybe it was my fear of heights. Maybe it was my nervousness. Oh my. Or maybe I was just shit. Oh look, it's Kendrick.
Euphoria.
Oh. Where am I? And the chat certainly wasn't making things any easier. I'd run, jump, shoot, and fall straight in the water, then get engulfed by this shark, who spits you back out at the start of the game. Why are you so shit? Yeah, thanks, Ollie, mate. Oh, this fucking shark. But I was determined. Run after run, I picked up new skills. The fact that I learned to sprint did help, I will admit. Sprint button? Oh, there is. Oh, there is a sprint button. And I started to get the hang of the mechanics, making it over more and more platforms, just to fall off and be swallowed by the shark again. I mean, this game was not easy or forgiving. Let's just say I certainly wasn't the kind of gamer for this game. What's going on? What's going on? No, what's going on? Cannon Jump obviously knew what it was. A rage game. Oh, off. And as bad as I was at it, I've got to admit, it achieved that goal very well. The mechanics did take a little bit of getting used to, and they weren't always the most responsive, but the fear of making it further up the map as you progressed, knowing that you would lose more and more each time you fell, made the game very exciting and addictive. It's similar to the popularity of games like Only Up or Getting Over It on Twitch. Viewers watching their favourite streamers make it as far as they can, just to fall and lose basically everything. I truly believe that if the right streamer got their hands on this game, it could probably be quite popular. It was actually a pretty clever premise, combining the rocket jump mechanic with the rage game blueprint, even if I wasn't the best to show it off. Well made, tricky rage game, shark, I was bad at it, has potential. 7 out of 10. Now, as we've covered before, horror games played by nobody are pretty tricky to find, as horror communities are very diehard, especially the gaming horror community.
Oh! Oh my god!
I mean, after the meteoric rise of games like FNAF and its global popularity...
Where to? Why do I always get the weirdos?
Who doesn't want a piece of the horror pie? It usually goes like this. An indie horror game starts up, it gathers traction online, blows up, ends up in toy shops as plushies and collectible figures, then Pyro makes a 9-hour video on it. Well, whilst in previous videos we've had 1 or 2 horror games, this time we have 3. And you know we're in the horror category, because I made the lights red. So first on the spooky list was a game called Creeping Darkness. I was flung into this dark hallway with a checkered floor, and the only thing of interest was this bold man stood behind a desk of sorts. Well, upon interacting with him, we learn that our character is lost and wants to rent a room. So I guess this place is a hotel of sorts? Maybe? Bear with me. I won't be long, he says, before walking into the back room. But of course, nothing is ever simple in a horror game. We hear an evil laugh, a door creak, and the man has vanished. Spooky. And all we're left with is this slither of text telling us to search for keys to different floors. So I did exactly that, roaming around dimly lit rooms of the building with nothing but a flashlight to lead me. Well, after wandering into this bedroom of sorts, I found a letter. Hello, Piggy. I hope you understand that you will not be able to sleep tonight, but I have a better offer for you. We will play. You will hide, and I will try to find you. And if you play badly, I will find you and eat you. Now, I will say this. It was very upfront, not very mysterious of whoever wrote this. I think they're in need of some sort of therapy, and maybe a Grammarly subscription.
Download Grammarly for free.
It was written like Kanye's tweets. Well, without all the, you know. So with the knowledge that someone was lurking around trying to eat me, I continued my search for the keys. Now, one strong point of the game that I will admit was its sound design. With no music and just creepy ambient noises, it actually worked really well to put me on edge. Ooh, it's scary. Oh, yeah, I'm scared. To the point that stuff that wasn't even made to be a jump scare worked to scare me. Which was ironic because literally the day after playing this game, I got an ear infection in both of my ears and went completely deaf. Very interactive experience, I will say. So with my newfound meds, I searched more of the building, rooting through any drawers I could find, but nothing. Well, I did open this cupboard and find a head on a pole, but that wasn't of much use. Oh, and now would be a good time to explain that there was a sanity meter at the top of the screen, and seeing this head had seemingly sent it into overdrive, a feature of the game that I hadn't noticed. So blissfully unaware, I encountered more unsettling things. Blood trails on the floor, more notes, and whatever the hell this was. No! What was that then? But this was nothing. I started hearing all sorts of sounds, and as I frantically ran around looking for something of use, I finally encountered what had been leaving all of those notes. Was this on before? Ah! Oh my... What is that? 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 Okay, fair play, Creeping Darkness. You might have gotten me a couple of times. But honestly, besides being on edge, the game didn't really work. I mean, I looked in every single room, in every drawer, multiple times, and found nothing. No keys. I mean, I would love to tell you what happens in the rest of the game, but there was no keys to find out. And if there was, they were certainly hidden unbelievably well. I tried giving the game another run, and the same thing again. Run around in the dark, find nothing, and get chased. And because I now knew about the clown gimmick, it wasn't even scary anymore. It was just annoying more than anything. The second you have to replay a part of a horror game, it sucks all of the scariness out of it, in my opinion. The fear of the unknown is just gone. So overall, sure. On the first run, the eerie sound design created a really creepy environment and got my heart racing a little bit. Toilet out of order. Someone's done a big, scary poo. And searching each of the rooms one by one, with only your flashlight, not knowing what you'd find, definitely added to this fear factor. Then, of course, you had the big payoff of the clown chasing you around. And the game certainly lived up to its name, because for 80% of it, I couldn't see a thing. The notes dotted around the game were far more funny than actually scary, and these sort of notes are actually a pretty common thing in these indie horror games, and comes off a tiny bit lazy. It's sort of just an easy way to shoehorn in info to the player. But nothing is scarier than reading. By the second run, I'd lost all interest, and the game had become more boring than scary. I feel with horror games, of course you have to scare the player, but having a clear objective and path to follow is really important to keep you engaged.
Oh, turn back if there's an anomaly. Chat, that means if there's an anomaly, we gotta turn back.
Sure, the odd search for an item in a single room is okay, but having to search an entire building comes with you being more fixated on finding these items and can zap away some of that fear, especially if you have to replay the search over again after you've seen all the scary bits. I guess the game would work well as a little 20-minute horror experience that you could throw your friends or nan in front of, but put it this way, the scariest part of the game was a first aid box. Oh, first aid! Oh, sorry. Good sound design, couldn't find keys. Okay, you got me. Boring after first run. First aid box. 4 out of 10. While hoping for a slightly better horror experience, I headed into London Ripper. Now I think we all know who this is referencing.
Relax, drink Stella, you know it make you feel better.
Well, before I'd even got into the gameplay recording file mysteriously corrupted. The game didn't record. Meaning you guys have to stare at my ugly mug the entire time. Ooh, how strange. London, 1889. We play as a prostitute. The world's oldest profession, as they say. We oversee a conversation between our character and what appears to be the brothel owner at the end of a shift, who warns us about the Ripper being out there on the streets and that he's been killing numerous other prostitutes. Sounds very safe. Surely nothing will happen to me. And with that, I make my way out onto the dark streets to find another brothel with nothing but $15 to my name. Well, I soon encountered this woman that I invaded the personal space of. She explains that her friend Sarah was murdered by the Ripper, but mentions he's never been to the West District. Making my way through a few more dingy London alleyways, I found a second person. This police officer.
I'm a police officer.
Don't be thinking I'm going to help you just because I'm a cop and I use your dirty services, you. Well, How rude. Classic police officer, am I right, guys?
Good boy.
Well, I didn't need him anyway. Cop! Cop! I could do this all by myself. Help me! Help me! Well, to show him that I could do it alone, I eventually found my way into this inn, located a poster on the wall, which somehow managed to scare me. What's this? Ugh! The poster was, of course, of the Ripper. Then I moved about 5 feet away, walked into an invisible wall, then spoke to this bloke about the Ripper. Flaming hell, is that all everybody talks about around here? Alright, I get that there's a murder on the loose, but we don't have to sit here and talk about it all day, guys. Why can't we talk about the weather or something? So as I wandered around more of London streets that were layered in a sheet of darkness, trying to navigate the cobbles, eventually I reached a wide open street. Suddenly, a dead prostitute lying on the floor. Ah! Then, we see a police officer walking down an alleyway across the road, except it wasn't a copper. It was the Ripper. What? Is that him? That's him! Springing into a chase, I frantically ran for my life, shouting for help. Cop! 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 Which, let's be honest, probably wouldn't have done anything. Well, I took my chance and quickly darted into this inn for cover, where the Ripper just walked past and stopped chasing me. So I walked outside and then proceeded to follow him. Am I chasing the Ripper? Am I the Ripper? Listen, okay, from this point onwards, the game just consisted of me wandering the streets in the darkness, then I'd run into the Ripper. Wait, is that him? That's him! And he just mindlessly chased me, swinging his knife around, and I'd loop him around the streets like DBD, until I eventually got bored and just let him kill me. Do you know what? Let's just let him kill us. Wow. I didn't really get what the aim of the game was. I guess maybe you just avoid the Ripper, but the streets were all so similar and dark that you could barely navigate, and the mindless chasers weren't particularly scary. Mate, what? This is awful. This isn't scary at all. The game did make me jump a couple of times, one being from a piece of paper. Ugh! But beyond that, the game didn't really offer much else when it came to horror. This is awful. He's shit. He's the worst killer ever. I must admit the graphical style of the game was pretty cool with that retro PS1 polygon look. Similar to games like Fears to Fathom, even if I did have to turn off this obnoxious VHS effect in the settings. But sadly, you couldn't see a lot of these graphics half the time because the game was ridiculously dark with no setting to change it. But hey, at least you can add a green screen VHS effect to the screen. The game being set in Victorian London has a lot of potential, I think, but sadly the game didn't really fulfill that potential at all. All everyone spoke about was this deadly Ripper, but then when you encountered him, you could just walk into a room and he seemingly forgets you exist. Interesting graphical style, the Ripper, boring chasers, darkness. Not scary. 3 out of 10. So not really particularly full of hope with the horror category. As I loaded up the final game on the list, I hope that this one would be the one to save the category. Maybe this is the next indie horror title to make it big. Well, let's take a look at Don't Look. Well, before I'd even got into the gameplay, the game was 800 by 600 resolution. Well, after fixing the resolution to something that was actually playable, it was time to delve in. Well, I say delved in, I spawned in a tall grey room with no textures or items or anything, just this wooden door. And for some reason, I was about 4 foot tall. And whenever I opened the settings menu, it flashbanged me. Well, upon opening said wooden door, a dark corridor awaits me, with even more wooden doors. Well, behind the first door on the left was this gradient of colour, but there was an invisible wall, so I couldn't enter it. So I made my way over to the first door on the right. Behind this door was a pitch black room, and after hesitantly walking in, I spotted this tall white creature with a box head. And well, as I approached... You know what, just let me show you what happened. What? What the fuck was that? Game over. What a great start. Within 5 minutes, I had my eardrums blown out again. New game, back we go. Door opens, and this time, I made my way down the corridor. Well, it appeared that basically every single door was locked, and I am not looking for more keys. Locked door after locked door. It's locked. It's locked. 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 They're all locked. Until I found one that finally opened. A dark room with wingdings, I guess. And given my past history of open doors, I thought it best to skip this one and use the door at the end of the corridor, which just displayed the title of the game, reminding me what game I was playing, I guess. Then I was suddenly teleported into a second grey room, except this time, my mouse sense had gone through the roof and the game performance had gone through the floor. A masterful combination. And unlike the first room, this one had a cook chair. There was also this small window on one of the walls in the room that looked out to what appeared to be a dead forest, and leaving the room confirmed this. Some rocky terrain, lots of dead trees, and a couple of mountains. Or in other words, Stoke-on-Trent. Honestly, it was all quite peaceful. That was until this happened. No, please. And it was at this point that I realised the reason the game was called Don't Look was because the whole point of the game was to not look at these tall creatures. Like some shitty reverse version of the Weeping Angels from Doctor Who.
Don't blink.
So with my newfound realisation, I gave things another go. Back I went, hopping through the wasteland, actively making an effort not to look at the strange tall creatures this time, which basically meant that the game was just me running through this forest, doing nothing. I mean, it seemingly led nowhere and just looped around in circles, which got extremely dry extremely quickly. So eventually, I just gave up and looked at one of them and let it kill me. Well, the game we hoped that would save the horror category ended up being the single worst game on this list. If not the worst I've ever played. I don't really know anything that I can say about this game that's positive. Sure, it jump scared me with a deafeningly loud noise, and I guess the game was sort of a psychological horror type thing, being extremely weird. But besides that, the performance was awful, and there wasn't really much to do. Oh, and I forgot to mention that there would be these loud audio pops that would happen randomly throughout the game, which was maybe the scariest aspect of Don't Look. Ow! Ow. Ow again. Ow. Ow. In fact, let's just rename the game. Ah, much better. Shit. 1 out of 10. So there we go. Another voyage into the waters of dead Steam games complete. Sure, whilst this one may have been a little more bumpy than others, sometimes it's nice to jump ship from the big titles, hop in a rowboat, and venture into unexplored waters. Whether you're trying to park a car, guide a hamster along rails, launch yourself through the air with a cannon, or escape the Ripper, it's safe to say that this was certainly different. Hi guys, it's me, live in the flesh, IRL. First off, I want to say if you've made it to this point in the video, thank you ever so much. I know this was a long one, the longest one on the channel yet, so if you've made it to this point, I appreciate it greatly. Pretty much, I just wanted to talk to you guys one-on-one because a lot is happening this year on the main channel, the second channel, and the Twitch channel. So firstly, the main channel. There's not going to be too much change, just higher quality uploads, the odd nutshell, gaming videos. A big documentary video similar to the ATM video will also be coming this year. But I'm sure you know me, I'm all over the place. I pretty much just jump between different kinds of videos and upload whatever makes me happy. And hopefully you guys will enjoy it too. Next, the second channel. Now this one's an exciting one. In between projects, there will be regular uploads on the second channel. We have editors now, which is great. There's already 2 food-related videos over there that you can go and watch. And the theme of food will probably crop up a lot on the second channel, as well as anything else that I want to create that I don't feel really needs to go on the main channel. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, or you just want to see more content from me, feel free to click the link in the description and go and subscribe over there. And finally, the Twitch channel. There'll be regular streams over there all throughout this year. I've already done a few streams and it's been great fun. This entire video was filmed live on stream whilst I was hanging out with chat, as I'm sure you probably saw from the video. There'll also be more planned out, higher effort interactive streams that will go on over on the Twitch that will then get turned into second channel content. There's actually one of those up on there now where I dunked every biscuit in tea and ranked them to find the absolute best. And that also brings me on to the Discord server. It is back. It's better than the old one in many ways. It's polished, it's refined, it's more streamlined. I'm sure you guys know how Discord servers work. There's plenty of channels in there that you can go and explore and chat with other viewers. There's a casino, there's a memes channel, there's a food channel, there's a pets channel. It's got pretty much everything that you can think of. And there'll be plenty more that's going to be added to that as the member count rises. Also, those interactive streams that I mentioned, any streams that require viewers to submit images like room reviews or fridge reviews, they will also be all conducted through the Discord server. So if you want to be involved in those streams or just check out the server, feel free to click the link in the description and join that. And that is pretty much it. As we enter 2025, my aim is to just output more content, better content. So keep your eyes peeled on this channel, the second channel, and the Twitch. Everything's linked below as always. Thank you to Displate for sponsoring the video. And with all of that said, goodbye.